Get ready. It's Fixed Ops Focus with Dave Rogers and Steve Shaw, where we discuss fixed operations so you don't have to suffer through them alone. Complete with questionable warranties, endless comebacks, and the eternal quest for the perfect RO.
I said I have to look into the camera.
Look into the camera. Mesmerized. That's it. Mesmerized.
It's like the cop said to me, I caught you doing 55 miles an hour into 35. I see you.
It is weird.
So what's going on, Dave? What's going on, Dave? Do you know why I pulled you over?
You pulled me over here. How are you, Steve? Everything's great here, man. Couldn't, can't complain. Like I say every time, I'll probably keep saying it until spring. It's cold, and maybe it'll get nice out. Actually, I looked at the weather the other day, and we might have 50-degree weather in another couple of days. 50 degrees in January.
50 degrees. You'll be taking your socks off. That's when we put ours on.
You're taking my socks off. That's exactly right. Yeah. Can't
Break
work
out
on
the
my
flip-flops at 50. Well, where do we leave off? We were talking a little bit of technician compensation last time. I think we were going to continue that onto. I think we talked about paying our techs. Flat rate. It's kind of a hybrid. I think is where we left off. I'm really interested in the express side of the business as well. I love talking express as well as lube techs and things like that. What are your thoughts on the express side of the business?
I hate express. I think it's just the biggest waste of money. You know what? I mean, I get it. It's a vital part of a lot of the businesses. We have pay plans all over the place on that too, mostly hourly with incentives. We offset some of what we pay them based on if they return hours, we offset the expense. But, overall, I think, it's a necessary evil. I don't always think it's the best. Well, I don't think it's the best service all the time for certain cars to give them to, kids, that don't really know how to look over a car. Right. And I can, example is, when I look at some of the numbers in some of the shops, you see the average mileage coming through the store, 75,000 miles right now. It's getting up there for the average miles, right?
Right.
You dissect it and you look at it sometimes, Steve. It kills me. Is some of the express advisors, the cars, the average miles is higher than the average miles of the car going through the main shop, right? So the car going through express has 80-some thousand miles on it. And you know why that is, because the customers have figured out that if I go to that express lane, I'm probably not going to get upsold as much as if I go through the main shop, right? So,
I have not thought that.
Well, I can tell you in the Northeast, people figure this stuff out, right? And you can't blame them, right? They if that's the path of least resistance and that's the place they go, that they're not going to get upsold so much. So that's why I say it's a necessary evil, because I think that, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25,000 miles, I think, get the car in, get the car out, change the oil. Every other visit, change the oil, do a tire rotation. I think that's important. So it's just hard to navigate every car going through that should go through it,
Yeah. And, I got to tell you, though, I have a unique outlook on express, because I think I get it. In today's day and age, we have express riders, right? We have the express, and the manufacturers want us to have this. But I think it's a fallacy, number one, that you have to have cars done in 30 minutes, right? Customers have all agreed they'll give us an hour. So we got that. And I think that express, or we used to call it maintenance and light repair. We used to call it, MLR, maintenance and light repair.
Hey, real quick.
So you get the oil changes.
Wait, let me interrupt. If that's what the manufacturers called it, it would be an awesome thing. By calling it express, you're putting an unfair burden on people. That's part of my problem.
Well, here's what I believe is the customer has said they'll give us an hour, and they'll give us an hour to do the oil change. They'll give us an hour to do the oil change, tire rotation, and multi-point inspection. Anything else, and I don't agree with, because it's a Mercedes and it's a B service, that the customer doesn't have an expectation of it being quick. Uh, but I think that it can't be, you can't tell the guy it's going to be, an all day job
Right.
because it's
I
a
agree.
Mercedes or a Lexus. They can still have express, or they can still have, faster service. But 1 hour is generally that what the customer said that they're comfortable with. Uh, but where if it's, when I think about from an express pay plan, we could get back to the other part from a customer perspective, or why they come in express versus this. But I think that we've got to allow our express, our lube technicians, whatever you want to call them, to do more than just oil changes. Because if not, then we're going to be carrying them forever. So when I used to be on the board of a couple of different schools, I would teach these kids to do radio, to learn how to program back in the day, right? When radios were hard to program the radios, program the phones, do the fluid, do the this and the that were quick and easy things. And I believe that any young man or woman, if they're at a car dealer or in a shop, they better know how to use those fluid maintenance machines. So we should allow them to do those things so that our technicians can earn a living. And still, hybrid pay plan is fine with me. Hourly plus, or hourly with, or a flat rate with a guarantee of some sort, and even an incentive for the additional items that they sell. Right, there has to be some sort of incentive for them to do better. Where I think we go off the rails is, one, we think the car's got to be done in 15 minutes because the auto manufacturer told us it did, which is
Right.
bullshit. And
Right.
then we think that one technician or two technicians should work on that one car, and that the dealer should lose money. And I find that to be, a ridiculous scenario. And I love setting up express lanes and express departments with dealerships. You know,
I agree. I do agree with you. I like to kid around with that whole thing and bust some chops because I do think maintenance and light repairs is a perfect line for it. We do have technicians that are hourly and spiffed based on the recommendations. Um, we've I think we've gotten better over the last few years about express. I think COVID helped, and where people started trying to make appointments for that stuff, where, no appointment is necessary, which is fine if you want to pull up. But during COVID, people wanted an appointment, right? They didn't want to be near anybody. They didn't want to touch anybody. They didn't want to breathe with anybody. So, I think that helped us a little bit because now you can actually schedule a little bit and pace it out. But I do think when you get to these hourly technicians, it is a great training ground for them. I think you're dead on with that. If you could teach them how to use the fluid machines, obviously testing batteries, doing the small repairs, air filters, cabin filters, obviously, wheel balancing, maybe a tire, that type of stuff. It's a great learning curve for them. But what do you think about paying them? I mean, besides, $1 for an air filter, like what kind of pay plans have you come up with or thought of?
I mean, I still think I would pay them an hourly rate, a flat rate hourly rate,
Okay.
plus incentive, and then I'd look for some way, the security blanket as well. But I want to make sure that, but if I'm going to pay them a flat rate, which I believe in, they've got to be able to change, the work that they're doing. They have to be able to turn 40 hours. They have to be able to turn their time, and so that's where we have to get them to their 40s. We have to have someone in their arena that can help them and guide them, and maybe teach them some of those things. I would be not opposed to in favor of any technician in lube or any technician in express being able to do everything up to 2 hours. Up to a brake job, let's say, they should be able to do it. And if they can't do that stuff, then they need to be working with someone until they're capable. And we dealers do what? We just take somebody and we go, "Oh, you're a mechanic." We throw them out on the line, or you want to be an advisor. We throw them out there at the desk, and we don't give them any supervision and find out what they can actually do. And then we hope that they're successful, and then we fire them, or we take them off of their guarantee and say tough shit, and then they quit. Right. So we have this vicious cycle, and we never give them the proper training. And I was watching a couple old episodes, and I know that I beat this drum all the time. Obviously, I'm a trainer in providing people training, but I don't know that there's any other thing that you can do other than keep giving these men and women the training that they need so that they can be successful. And I'm not saying hire Steve to do it, but somebody in the facility needs to be able to give them those tools so that they can be successful, for us.
I agree. I mean, the earn as you learn program, we used to call it, right? We'd hire people and, you know, that's how you learn. We're going to pay you. It's better than college. I used to tell the kids, right? I said, when you go to college, you have to pay to learn. I said, we're going to pay you to come here. We're going to teach you, right?
Yeah.
But we do a crappy job teaching overall. I agree with you on that. Yeah, I mean, I think though the express technicians you mentioned flat rate. Most of my guys are hourly. They're actually clock hour guys, um, with incentives to get them as close to 40 hours as possible. Let's say, but that's not easy to turn. It's not an easy job on 6, 7, 8 tenths a car. I think that's probably the average on
No.
the express lane, 8 tenths at RO. And we have some stores where they upsell on that express lane advisors, as low as 2 tenths, as an average, and then as high as 1 hour in some cases. Um, so that's a real feast or famine business, obviously based on the miles of the car and what it needs. So, but it is a great training ground if you can. I think you're in the South, and I think I've noticed when I go down to like Texas or you go down to some of these in Florida and stuff, you'll see these big behemoth dealerships, and then when you pull in the main entrance, there's a young girl sitting on a chair, right, asking you, "What are you here for today?" And you're like, "Well, I want to get an oil change." And they point to the 8 bays that are over to the left side that are like express bays with the pits in it, right? You know,
Yeah.
and then if you're here for a regular service
Yeah.
or recall, then you go to the right and there's the drive-through and stuff. And you know, I mean, listen, that's a great way to do express. There's nothing better, as far as having the land and having the bays to do that. Um, Unfortunately, in the Northeast, you don't see that often. I do have 2 stores with
Well,
express bays, express drive-throughs, but most of my stores don't have an express lane. They really don't.
I would say I would go along with that. I would say most stores don't have the setup to do that type of thing. Um, if I could default back and say that's why groups are so good, but that's showing my age. But I could also say that again, it's looking at your business and if we're how are we going to grow our business? We all grow our business through the express lane, and so we don't make a lot of money starting out in the express lane. If you're just selling oil changes and tire rotations, you're not making any money. Forget about having the untrained advisor doing express, but the dealership, if they're just selling oil changes, we know that they're not making. It's like McDonald's, they're not selling they're selling hamburgers. They say just a hamburger, they're going to go out of business. So they have to sell fries, they have to sell ice cream, they have to sell that extra stuff. So I think it's important to add that on. Uh, but again, I think it goes back to each individual business. What's your strategy? Are you going to be in the oil change business? And if you are, then you got to sit down and look at how do I make money with Express? And paying some $50 technician to do oil change isn't going to do it because I can't pay him to look over somebody. And then having a kid that doesn't know how to do a 100,000 mile car doesn't work. So there is a strategy involved in an express or MLR, the quick lane type of situations that many people just overlook and they're rushing to get the car in and out. I don't want to deal with that. I'm not going to make any money. Let's just get them in and out. Or the other thing that drives me absolutely insane is, and again, there might be 1,000 people that are going to comment and tell me they hate me, is if I have to make an appointment for an oil change so it can be convenient for you as a dealer, well, you're not in the oil change business, right? So just forget about it. Might as well not even do it, From the manufacturer perspective, if I had to add, well, they say express because they're driving us because for I mean, when I first started with Ford, we didn't even do fucking oil changes, right?
Right,
We we
right,
sent them down the street. And
right.
so then it was a 3-hour oil change and so on and so on. But I think the manufacturers do help us get into the generation that we need to be into that expeditious repair, quick type of repairs by pushing that because that's what a customer wants. Uh, so I think there has to be a blend and a well thought out program if we're going to do this appropriately, up to and including paying those guys.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. I do think that, we've talked about it before in some of the stores, and we probably talked about it is, in the stores that aren't set up for express has to happen behind the wall, right? You got to look at that ticket and give it to the right guy to get it in and out as fast as you can, because that's really what it's all about, right? And I agree with you. My philosophy has always been no appointments necessary. You can come in, I'm going to take care of you. But tell you, Steve, if somebody calls ahead and makes an appointment at 1 o'clock and you show up at 1 o'clock, they're going to go in before you. Now I'm going to try to get both of you done, but you know, what I'm saying is like, I've been trying to figure out, there's got to be somebody out there doing this, but like great clips, and you go on the app and you see what the weight is, you hit the thing and it says, because they're all logged into the same system. Um, but I do think that there's, I don't know. I think that there's a challenge when you have these kids just doing oil changes, just doing tire rotations, trying to beat this hour thing. I mean,
Right.
and
It's
I've
not going
seen
to
this
happen. Yeah.
before. I mean, but when do you take the time to train them to do anything else? Either that's the other challenge, right? I guess the lulls and the that's, I guess that's part of the other challenge to get these kids, because we lose a lot of oil change kids. Yeah, maybe some of them find out it's not the business for them, but after doing it for a couple of years, maybe they don't see the career goals. Maybe we haven't given them enough stuff to do. Maybe there's enough. I don't know what the answer is. Everybody's different. Obviously, it's not always the same. But um, and I think you're right. I think there's got to be a better way of doing this. I agree.
Okay. So now it's going to be my St. Louis Cardinals reference. I have
Here
to
we go.
reference the Cardinals
Set you up for
every
the
every
baseball
episode, right?
analogy. Here you go.
I thought about this, after one of our episodes. We were talking and I went, okay, the St. Louis Cardinals have gotten rid of all of their big money players. And what did they decide to do? Was they decided to spend money on their farm system, and they decided to grow their people, and they put all of their money into, not all of it, but they dedicated a lot more money into coaches, into trainers. And I would have never thought that, well, hey, you get out of college or high school, college, you get drafted into the, single A, double A ball. I didn't know that there was like a whole team of people supposed to be there to help you develop, right? There's a coach
Right.
there that's
Yeah.
developing the pitchers. There's a coach there that's developing the catchers, right? And so that's what, the management has decided to do is put a ton of resources in the coaching and development of their players. And where is that coach or that development person? We might call them a shop foreman, but how much time does a shop foreman dedicate to growing someone? I do have there's a group out of Ohio that does an amazing job. They have their own tech academy. I've heard of that more and more, where they're training people and they take people off the drive or off the shop and take them to their academy, and they do it. It's freaking amazing. And they've groomed so many people that they're placing them in other stores, right? So there is a way to make that happen. And I think there are many dealers. That's just one example of a big auto group that's doing it. Uh, but there's got to be a way within our stores that we can coach these kids and that we can grow them. And we all have that old dog that is going to retire, that he's super knowledgeable. We don't want him to retire, but he just can't cut it anymore. Could we take some form of our budget to turn that guy into a technician, trainer, a coach, somebody to grow our people? And I think in this day and age, we have to have that, or we're just going to be, we'll be talking about this 20 years from now is the exact same thing.
No, I agree. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You really are. And it is. We've done it. I mean, obviously, we have guys that retire out, and we have guys that get older, and you make them shop foremen, or you make them, whatever, dispatchers, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of them are good trainers when they realize that they can't do what they used to do, right? So they're looking for something to do. Their brains still work, but their bodies are giving out on them. And you're right. There's got to be more to
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Institute, the techni, raising, or the university, whatever you want to call it, that the groups are doing. That's light years ahead of most of us. So that's great. It's great to hear. I love to see.
Yeah, it's out
I have
there.
some guys. I have some guys that are really good at bringing up guys. Bringing up techs. But then I don't think it's as widespread as I'd like to think it would be or should be.
Well, that could lead you could have some conversation about, a technician with an apprentice or a technician with helpers. Then we get into the, the flagging the time with the, manufacturers. So it does bring about lots of different challenges. And then how do you pay the senior guy? Do you pay him an override? How does that exactly work? But and then there's some lot of creative people out there, and I think when I first started in the business, it always annoyed me, like, why does that guy, especially at Ford, why does he have 4 helpers? You know what I mean? And this one technician who sits on his ass doesn't do much. He's got his helpers doing everything, but this guy's getting a big check. But over time, I grew to understand how important that role was of that guy having a bunch of helpers and watching those kids grow into technicians. You know, and then the other thing that I think that would have to go along with that is, and I've written this out for hundreds of dealers, is what is the plan? What is the plan for me when I show up at your store as a kid? Like, I could tell you, me as a kid, I just wanted to work for a car dealer. That was my whole dream, but I didn't know shit and I wasn't that good of a tech. I had a couple guys that helped me out, but I could see the bigger and better. Like, I wanted to go right service, and I saw my path a little bit differently. But there are kids that, like me, that are green and they're just fresh out of school and they have a dream and they want to go somewhere. What are we doing to foster that? And I think we shit on ourselves and we step all over our toes so much. And these kids end up leaving and they go to work for the city or the state or the county or the docks because they get paid 40 hours a week and they get a big check and they don't have to use their brains. And we lost out on a good potential employee because we didn't have a path that particular guy could follow and, know he's going to be making good money in a couple of years.
No, it's true. I think we have to do a better job of promoting it too. We can't, we need to let people know that there is, there is advancement, there is opportunity. If maybe being a tech isn't your gig, but there is management jobs, sales jobs, I mean, listen, it's something that people forget, but, I've seen guys that, came in as an apprentice tech and, wound up being parts managers. I've seen, people that came in as apprentice techs and wound up being salesmen or sales managers. So, but I don't think we do overall. And I think case by case, one by one, and we have some guys and some people in this business that do a good job with it. But I don't think we do a great job marketing what we do for people and the opportunity there. And then, setting a career goal and setting a path for a kid like that. You're right. It's got to be more well thought out. I think, if 50% of the people that listen to something like this or, read a book like this and they start taking it and run with it, it's going to just make the business a lot better. So,
well, I will do something. Hey, if you have a great pay plan for an express guy, drop it in the comments below, right?
there you go.
And
Yeah.
please feel free to share if you want to be on our show and you want to talk about that stuff. We'd love to hear it. I don't think there's a wrong way, but I think that there's a better way of giving a guy an incentive and then that security so that they know that they're going to feed themselves and feed their family. Yet if they bust their ass, they're going to make a living, And I think we got to come up with those pay plans and then motivate our people and then hold them accountable by those daily meetings every day. And now one thing I forgot to say, a lube tech's objective might only be 6 hours. It might be 4 hours.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They may not hit their 8 hours, and I may be okay with that if that's what they're capable of doing, and I'm certainly happy to cover the rest of their time. Here's a question that I would have for you. Where do we put the money that the guy doesn't flag? We all know the answer, right? If I don't flag the hour, but I got to get paid.
Unapplied labor.
It goes to unapplied labor, right? And then every dealer sees unapplied labor, and they go, Dave, we can't have effing unapplied labor. Go turn that guy flat rate. Right.
And that's what happens.
And that's what happens. And then the guy quits. So I've always been the advocate of it's training time. So put as much. I know that it's unapplied, right? But I could either budget for unapplied time or I could budget for these guys to train and put their money into training. Again, I don't know the tax implications or how, controllers do it. But all I know is if when it goes into unapplied, somebody's hot button is triggered and the manager's going to get a call and it's all over, bro.
Well,
it's all over.
The general manager is going to go to his 20 group and someone's going to see that line on there and the instructor's going to go, let's take that dollar amount. Let's divide it by your average cost of your technicians. Let's multiply it by your effective labor rate. Let's multiply that by 2 for your parts of labor. Let's cut it in half. And that's how much gross you lost by having the unapplied labor, right? That's the formula. That's what they're going to do, right? So, I agree with you. I've taken different approaches with the hourly people in many different areas. So, um, I'll start with the easiest one. We've put it to service and wages other, right? We've put it to training to get into expense lines instead of getting it into unapplied labor for that same reason, right? Um, what I liked the best was, and I just throw the numbers. If I was paying the kid $15 an hour, and let's say he could produce 20 hours a week, I put him in the DMS at 30 hours an hour,
Sure,
$30 an
absolutely.
hour.
Yep.
So my margin went down, but I basically buried the kid, you know. And then if he got to be a 30 hour, if he got up to be 30 hours, then I'd knock it down to 20, 22,
Right.
whatever the math was, right?
Yeah.
And your margin will go up a little bit. So, there's plenty of ways to do it. But the answer, like I told you, is the general one is unapplied labor, right? That's what
No.
it is. And it's always
But
the
we
one that
spend so
attracts
much
the
time
attention.
jacking around.
Yeah.
We're jacking around trying to hide this money instead of saying, let's budget. We got a bunch of kids. We know that they're going to flag 4 hours a day. Let's put in our budget and let's be okay with it. And 20 group be damned, you know,
Well, and I think and I
until the
think
20
part of
group.
And I think part of it is, and again, not a knock on, general managers and certainly not, but these guys are generally paid on the bottom line, right? And when things aren't going great, rightfully so, they're looking at all the expenses, they're looking at all the stuff, and it's just easy to pick these kids off, right? It's, you got an hourly kid, and you're not thinking about the future at this point. You're thinking about the month. You're thinking about your commission. You're thinking about the quarter, and that's where the problems have always been. I think in this business when we get that short term thinking, because I know every
Well,
time
yeah.
there's been a recession or a downturn, we've gotten rid of service valets. We've gotten rid of service cashiers. We've gotten rid of our express techs, right? They don't sell any cars, but they never fire the sales manager to make it 200 grand a year. I used to say, he ain't selling anything. Get rid of him. Let
Hey,
me
the
keep the
Cardinals
valets.
decided they were not. I was going to say the Cardinals decided we are not going to win the World Series for 2 years, right? Or 3 years, 2027, maybe we should be a contender. And so they said, we're going to suck, right? Now, I don't mean that the dealer should suck for 3 years, but we should we got to get out of the month to month or day to day mentality and be looking at 3 years from now, where's my organization going to be? And I got to stop putting, my commission check. Obviously, we all live on commission. I do too. I get paid when I show up. So, but we got to see past that in a sense, right? We got to look past that from an organizational standpoint. And again, I think that goes back to strategy. It goes back to the strategy. What is my overall strategy for paying people, and how am I going to charge my customers so that I compensate for that? And I would bet and I'm sure you've done it. If I sat down and laid all this out in a room or on a wall, eventually I'd come to the right conclusion, and then the hard work comes because now I got to go fucking execute all of this shit.
Or sell it to 30 service managers. That's the other problem. Or
Right?
30 GMs. Sell it to 30 GMs. Let me see how good you are at that.
No, that's exactly it. That's right. That's right.
I think we
I
ran up
guess you got
against our
to. I
time
know. I
limit.
know. I love being the third party administrator here on the outside. Right. I get the beautiful outside looking in type of perspective. But hey, I'm the first one to go. We talked about that. Hey, times are tough. Steve's the first one laid off. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
but I've given up. How would you say? Uh, I would give up that for the organization, right? My job isn't to be with the organization forever, on a monthly basis. It's, I love what way we do it. We've been together for a long time. I have many clients have been with me forever, but I'm not there all the time. I'm not charging them. It's just been a long-term, relationship. And my job is to get out of there. My job is if there is a store that we're in, on a regular, I got to get done, right? Because eventually the dealer's going to say, you're paying you a lot of money. So we need to help them and get on their feet, and then get them off of our payroll, or get off of their payroll for us, and they can move on, and then we can visit. So, but I think it has to be everybody has to look at this from a long term situation versus tomorrow, right?
No, I agree. I think those are the groups that are doing the best, and I think those are the groups that are going to, in 5, 10 years, they're going to be left standing, right? As this
Exactly.
consolidation's been happening in this business for a while, and I think we just bought another store today.
Yeah.
So, we're up to 31 stores. So it's happening all over the place. And, we got to get better at it, because what's going to happen in 10 years when you don't have these, the technicians here turning a wrench? And, I think it's going to get better. I think more and more kids are going to tech schools, but I think, what we do with them once they get out of the tech school is going to make the biggest difference, because
Absolutely.
we just haven't been long-term planners. That's why. So,
Absolutely. Well, we've really gone long on this one today, but I think it was worth it. And probably we could probably talk for more hours and hours and hours on this topic. I would be interested. It's hard for me to listen. It's hard for me to say I'm interested in someone else's opinion besides my own. Okay. So if somebody's out there listening, by the way, we've got we've got double-digit subscribers now, right? We're on our way to 100, so that's a good thing. And I'd be interested to hear if you got a great pay plan. What are your thoughts? Weigh in on either the pay plans for main shop technicians or express guys, or if somebody's doing something super cool, we'd love to hear about it and maybe get you on the show, talk about it. That would be amazing. And I think both, Dave, you could follow up and chime in, but I've learned a lot just talking to you, overall these last few months, just shooting the shit about this stuff. And some guys have reported to me that they're using it in their training and their travels right now. You said a couple of your guys were using this, so I think we can all learn together. I'll raise my prices, and then no, I'm just kidding. What do you think, Dave? What do you think about that?
listen, I think that this is a great way to pay it forward. And I think, I teaching next generation of managers, teaching next generation of people to maybe start thinking out of the box. It's a student of the game, right? Learn a little bit. You know, with too much live in a Google world where we just Google the answer when we need it, right?
Yeah,
I think podcasts are a great way, videos are a great way to pick something up 25, 30 minutes. And yeah, I love learning. I always question what I hear, see, what the norm is. I've always done the question the norm. And I love to hear different opinions. I mean, I got, chat groups going that I'm participating in. It's just, I love this business. And I think that, there's so much to learn. And yeah, man, bring it on. Let's hear the comments. Let's see you got pay plans out there. Let's hear it. And let's get some guests on. Let's talk about it. Cause I think, what'd you say? We're in the top 10% now, right?
We're in the top 10% of podcasts right now. Let's let we got we're double-digit subscribers. We're 421,000 ranked out of 4 million. So we're right there breaking into the top 10.
I'll take it, man. I'll take it.
Right on. All right. That sounds like a good way to stop, man. I look forward to hearing the comments, and we'll chat again soon, Dave.
All right, I'll talk to you, Steve. Thanks.
Fixed Ops Focus is brought to you by Common Sense. Like, subscribe, and share on all platforms. Side effects may include advisors missing easy upsells, ROs walking out the door, CSI scores tanking, techs chasing comebacks instead of billable hours, your competition stealing your customers, and that special guilt of watching your gross profit bleed out monthly. Results may vary. Consult your Fixed Ops director before ignoring this advice.